There's an unexpected kind of peace that arrives the moment you stop gripping the world so tightly. When you loosen your hold on the endless what-ifs and imagined disasters, you create space for life to move naturally without being suffocated by fear. Worry, though loud and persistent, is nothing more than a prison built from illusions keeping you trapped in a tomorrow that hasn't even happened, robbing you of the strength and calm that are already within you. Buddha once reminded us, you only lose what you cling to. Yet, in a society that teaches us to fight for control, how do we truly release our grip? And why does trying to fix everything so often leave us feeling emptier than before? Think of this not as just another video, but as a quiet mirror, a space where you might see yourself more clearly. Together, we'll explore the hidden habits that exhaust your heart and keep your spirit restless, and how the wisdom of Buddhism can gently untie those knots. Stay with me until the end, because Lesson 9 carries a truth that could change the way you hold your emotions forever. And if you feel ready, write in the comments. I choose to let go of what no longer serves me. Before we begin, consider joining our circle here at Deepest Wisdom, where each video opens a doorway to clarity, calm, and timeless insight you won't find anywhere else. 1. The calm that lives beyond control. There's a subtle kind of pain that doesn't come from what the world throws at you, but from the way you tighten your grip on it. It's the quiet ache of trying to shape every person, every moment, every outcome to match your idea of how things should be. You tell yourself, if I can just make this turn out my way, then I'll finally be at peace. But peace is not born from control. It's born in the moment you release it. True freedom begins where your grasp ends. Have you ever held on to something so tightly that your fingers ached, only to realize later you never needed to hold it at all? The harder we cling, the more life seeps through the spaces we can't close. In Buddhist teaching, this grasping, tanha, or craving, is the root of so much suffering. It's the restless urge to hold on to what is fleeting, to resist the natural flow of impermanence. Picture a river that tries to reverse its own current. How long before it collapses from exhaustion? Yet many of us live like that, pushing for certainty when life offers only the unknown, trying to coax love from indifference, trying to force clarity out of confusion. But the river does not fight. It moves, it bends, it surrenders, and still, it finds the ocean. This is the heart of letting go, the calm that exists beyond control. Monks tell a story about the wind and the leaves. The wind never asks the leaves where they want to go, and yet, by simply moving, they follow. The power isn't in force, it's in presence. You are the wind. Life was never meant to be gripped until it gasps for air. It was meant to be walked through, with awareness, with gentleness, with eyes fully open. The modern world tells us that to care is to control, that to love is to worry, that to succeed is to obsess. But the way of the Buddha whispers otherwise. Letting go is not turning your back on life. It's trusting it to unfold. And there is a difference, a vast difference, between giving up and giving in. Giving up is surrendering to despair. Giving in is surrendering to wisdom. Try this. Close your eyes and imagine a rope you've been pulling for far too long. Perhaps it's a relationship. Perhaps it's the image of who you think you should be. Now loosen your hold. Let your shoulders fall. That, right there, is the doorway to peace. Ask yourself, what am I holding onto so tightly that it's leaving me tired? And what might happen if I let it rest? At first, the stillness might feel uncomfortable, even frightening. But if you stay with it, you'll find something more valuable than control. You'll find clarity. And soon, you'll notice that when you stop interfering, life begins to find its own rhythm. One that needs no pushing, no panic, no perfection. The day you stop trying to make life obey you is the day it starts aligning with the deepest part of who you are. The mind that no longer clings sees with a clarity that control can never give. Let go, not to escape, but to rise. Let go and return to the quiet that has been waiting beneath everything all along. 2. Love without chains. Between genuine love and attachment lies a thread so fine that most never notice when they've crossed it. At first, your heart is open, your care is freely given. But slowly, almost without realizing it, your care begins to carry a silent request for reassurance, for certainty, for control. And when those expectations aren't met, it isn't love that wounds you. It's the grip you've wrapped around it. We often ask, why does love hurt so much? But love, in its purest form, does not injure. It is the clinging, the need for love to be returned exactly as we imagine that turns tenderness into tension. True detachment is not the absence of love, but the clearest expression of it. Real care doesn't collapse into need. It expands into presence. It becomes a quiet offering rather than a desperate trade. In Buddhism, this is called wise compassion, the ability to be fully present with another without losing your own center. Like one candle lighting another, you can share your warmth and glow without dimming your own flame. You remain whole. You do not have to burn yourself to ashes to prove that your love is real. Yet many of us carry the belief that to truly love means to constantly worry, to sacrifice until there's nothing left, to give until we are empty. But this isn't love, it's fear wearing the mask of devotion. When your care becomes a cage, when your sense of self hangs on someone else's approval or attention, you've left the space of love and stepped into the prison of attachment. Think of the sky, it welcomes the clouds, the rain, the sun, and the storm. It embraces them all, yet never tries to hold them in place. They pass through, and the sky remains vast, open, and free. This is what pure care looks like, allowing, unpossessive, steady. When you no longer need your care to be reflected back to you, you discover the peace you were seeking in others was always hidden in your own stillness. The Buddha taught that our suffering doesn't come from the act of caring, it comes from the way we grip that care with longing and demand. Real love doesn't bind, it frees. So today, watch your own care closely. Ask yourself, where does my care feel light and open? And where does it feel heavy and restrictive? One nurtures your heart, the other closes it. True care allows space for others to be exactly as they are, and for you to stay at peace regardless. It doesn't make you cold or indifferent. Instead, it roots your compassion in freedom. What would it feel like to love without expecting, to care without clinging? It may sound like surrender, but it is in fact strength, the quiet, unwavering power of a heart that rests in peace. Love can stay deep even as your hands let go. Compassion can remain whole even as your mind releases its grasp. And when you stop clinging, life naturally returns to balance, leaving behind love in its most radiant form. 3. The quiet strength of non-reaction. There exists a small and often overlooked space between what life brings you and how you choose to respond. It is a space so subtle that most people rush past it without noticing. Yet within that stillness lies your greatest freedom. Many move through life in a constant hurry to react. They want to defend themselves, prove they are right, or force an outcome. But the more you react, the more of your energy you hand over to the very thing that unsettles you. It is like being a leaf caught in every passing breeze, constantly tossed about with no direction of your own. Buddha once taught that a calm mind can hold storms without becoming part of them. The storms will still come, but you do not have to be swept away. You can stand in the middle of chaos and remain present, still and aware. In that place, silence becomes a form of strength that no raised voice can equal. Our modern world often mistakes silence for weakness, but in spiritual truth, silence is one of the highest disciplines. A mountain does not shout at the wind to prove its presence. It endures without moving, without bending to every gust. it simply remains. In the same way, non-reaction is not the act of suppressing your emotions, but the act of rising above them. When you no longer feel the need to respond to every insult, opinion, or slight, you step into a higher ground. You stop playing small games of pride and choose the path of peace. Think of a moment when you reacted with anger or frustration. Your voice may have risen, your breath may have quickened, your mind may have filled with racing thoughts. And when it was over, did you truly feel stronger, or did you feel drained? We often believe that quick reactions show power, but the truth is that real power lives in the pause. It is found in the breath you take before emotion takes hold of you. The next time someone stirs your anger, stop. Feel your breath move into your belly. Watch the feelings rise and then watch them pass. In that pause, you reclaim your strength not by controlling others, but by refusing to let them control you. In Buddhism, this is called equanimity, a deep and steady balance that allows you to hold life without falling into its turbulence. Equanimity is not coldness or indifference. It is the wisdom of choosing what deserves your energy. When you stop caring about proving yourself to the world, you return to your true center. You stop pouring your spirit into battles that do not matter and save it for the growth that does. Ask yourself with complete honesty, how much energy have you lost by reacting too quickly? And what would happen if you chose stillness instead? When you no longer feel compelled to answer every challenge, you become grounded like the earth beneath your feet. Life begins to align, not because it has changed, but because you have. The outside may continue to tremble, but inside, you remain the mountain. The day you stop reacting to everything is the day you begin to see more clearly. Stillness shows you truth. Silence reveals your strength. Let the wind move as it will. Let the world spin as it must. You are not here to chase every noise. You are here to be the calm at the very center of it all. If you feel this truth deeply, share your reflection in the comments. And if words do not come, simply write, "My stillness is my strength." 4. Letting go as an act of trust. Much of life is spent gripping tightly to things not always because we need to, but because we fear what might happen if we don't. We hold on to people, expectations, plans, even to pain itself. Deep down, many believe that releasing something means losing it, that to let go is to give up. Yet in truth, letting go is one of the most sacred ways of showing trust. Clinging adds weight to your spirit. Releasing gives it wings. Think of the trees in autumn. They do not cling to their leaves in dread of the cold. They allow them to fall with quiet grace, trusting the rhythm of the seasons. They do not mourn the change, they prepare for renewal. Buddhism reminds us that all things are impermanent, rising and fading, like each breath we take. When we resist this truth, we create suffering. When we accept it, we begin to grow. Holding on may seem safe, but it anchors us in stories that no longer match who we have become. You are not meant to carry everything forever. Some moments, some people, some emotions are only meant to pass through you, not stay within you. Picture yourself in the stillness of a quiet forest. A soft wind stirs the air. Leaves drift down, one by one, without struggle. Now imagine the parts of your life you have outgrown: an old resentment, a habit that dims your light, a version of yourself that feels heavy. Watch them fall away like those autumn leaves. There is no pain, only release. In that space, you are not losing. You are making room. Letting go is an act of wisdom that says, I trust that what is leaving is clearing the way for what is meant to arrive. And yet, so often we stay in relationships that no longer grow, in jobs that shrink our spirit, in identities that no longer reflect our truth. We stay not out of love, but out of fear that without them, we will fall. But the truth is, you do not fall, you rise, you become lighter, clearer, freer. Ask yourself gently, what am I holding that already wishes to leave me softly? the answer may arrive as a whisper, trust it. Because when you release what no longer belongs, you do not lose your power. You return to it. You step back into the flow of life. You stop forcing the current and begin moving with it. A tree without its leaves is still a tree. In letting go, it becomes even more aligned with nature's rhythm. You too are part of this same cycle. Trust it. Let go without bitterness, but with faith. Without fear, but with quiet strength. For when you stop clinging, peace does not simply pass through you, it makes a home within you. Letting go is never the end. It is the doorway to everything real. 5. You were never incomplete. Many spend their entire lives chasing something they believe will finally make them feel whole: praise, love, recognition, or a certain status. They imagine that once it arrives, the emptiness inside will dissolve. Yet, even when these things come, the hollow feeling often remains. The reason is simple. What you've been searching for has never lived outside of you. It has been quietly resting beneath the noise, beneath the constant doing and striving. Your soul was never empty, it has only been overlooked. And in that forgetting, you've missed the most important truth. You were never lacking. Not on your best day, not on your worst day, not even in the moments you doubted yourself the most. Buddhist teachings remind us that suffering is born from illusion, the illusion that something essential is missing, that you must become more before you can be enough. But this belief is not truth. It is a story written by conditioning. You entered this world already whole. You do not need to be completed, you need only to remember who you are. Picture a diamond buried in thick layers of mud. The dirt may hide its brilliance, disguise its worth, and make it seem unremarkable. Yet nothing can diminish its value. The diamond is still the diamond. And you, no matter how covered in life's challenges and doubts, remain complete, radiant, and worthy. Still, many seek worth in the noise, in the opinions of others, in the endless scroll for validation. But truth does not announce itself in shouts. It speaks in whispers, in stillness, in breath, in the quiet moment when the mind softens enough to hear the gentle voice that says, "You have always been enough." We often miss that voice because we are too busy proving, pleasing, and performing. We neglect the parts of ourselves that have only ever wanted to be seen, not by the world, but by us. Take a moment, sit in stillness, close your eyes, feel your breath find its own rhythm. Then quietly repeat to yourself, "I am whole. I do not need to be completed." Say it not as something you hope to believe in the future, but as a truth that has always been yours. Notice how your shoulders ease, how the tension begins to leave your body as those words sink in. There is a part of you that has long been waiting for your own approval, not the part that achieves or impresses, but the part that has carried you through every season, quietly enduring. That part deserves your love. Ask yourself, what part of me have I left behind in my pursuit of being enough? Allow the answer to arrive without rushing it. It may come as a feeling, a memory, or even a tear. Welcome it. Every part of you is longing to be embraced, not corrected. When you stop trying to become someone else, life begins to meet you as you are. And peace follows not because you have changed, but because you have come home to yourself. The moment you realize you were never lacking is the moment you stop searching and start living. And in that living, you discover that you already are what you've been seeking all along. You only had to remember. If this truth resonates with you, share your reflection in the comments. And if words do not come, simply write, "My stillness is my strength, is my." 6. Change begins when resistance ends. There comes a time when the soul does not tire from the events of life, but from the constant fight against them. You resist what is unfolding. You brace against the moment. You tell yourself, this should not be happening, or it was supposed to be different. In that inner struggle, peace slips away. Resistance does not protect you, it traps you. The harder you fight against what already exists, the more deeply you sink into your own pain. Acceptance, however, opens the door to a different kind of strength. The moment you stop pushing against reality, you begin to feel life again, not as an enemy to battle, but as a current you can move with. Buddhist wisdom teaches that suffering is not born from the events themselves, but from the way we refuse to accept them. Pain is part of living. Resistance is a choice. When you release that resistance, you do not become passive. You step into a deeper power, the power of moving in harmony with truth rather than in conflict with it. Just as ice does not melt through pressure but through warmth, transformation is not forced into being. It happens through openness, through allowing space for change to arrive on its own. Picture yourself standing in a river with a strong current. You plant your feet, pushing back with all your strength, yet the water keeps flowing. The more you resist, the more it pulls on you. Now imagine loosening your stance, lifting your feet, letting the water carry you. The river is no different than before. Only you have changed. You can try this right now. As you exhale, quietly say the word allow. Let your shoulders drop. Let your body soften. With each breath, allow the fear, the tension, the uncertainty, not because you agree with them, but because they are already here. In that allowance, you make space for peace to enter. Ask yourself, where am I still fighting the current? What part of life am I holding on to because I believe it should be different? Those are the places where your suffering lives. And perhaps those are the places where your surrender must begin. When you stop trying to control every turn, you open yourself to the reality of life as it truly is alive, surprising, and unfolding in ways you could not predict. The irony is that true change often begins the moment you stop trying to force it. Change born from alignment is softer, yet far more lasting than change born from resistance. Peace is not the result of fixing every detail. It is the result of letting things be as they are, even for a single breath. In that stillness, clarity appears. And from clarity, the next step becomes simple, gentle, and true. When you stop resisting, you return to yourself. You come back to the quiet rhythm of the present moment, and in that return, you find the peace you were seeking all along. 7. Peace lives in fewer words. There is a unique kind of tiredness that does not come from what you carry, but from the constant need to explain yourself. You want to be understood, to be seen in the right light, to justify your choices and your feelings. Yet somewhere along the way, the peace you once had quietly slips away. You speak too much, think too long, and care too deeply about how you are perceived. The truth is, peace is often found when you let go of the need for so many opinions. Those who carry the deepest wisdom rarely speak in abundance. They say little, yet understand much. They do not explain their silence, they live within it. In Buddhist practice, there is a discipline in restraint, not as a form of suppression, but as a refinement of energy. It is the ability to hold your truth without forcing it into every conversation. This is a quiet kind of freedom, one that comes when you no longer feel the urge to win arguments with the world. You simply live as you are. And in that simple living, stillness takes root. Stillness begins where explanation ends. Think of a calm lake at dawn. It does not try to capture the beauty of the sky above it. It simply reflects it effortlessly because it is still. You too reflect your truest self, not through constant explanations, but through the way you live and carry yourself. Often, the urge to explain grows from fear. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear that without understanding, people will withdraw their care. Yet the more you try to justify yourself, the further you drift from your own center. You move from observing to defending, from resting in truth to reacting to noise. But the moment you realize that your truth requires no approval, only presence, something shifts. You begin to free yourself from the endless cycle of proving. You can try this today. The next time you feel the pull to explain yourself, pause. Do not rush to defend. Do not fill the silence. Just breathe. Let the moment pass. Notice the strength that comes from holding your ground without words. You will see that you lose nothing and gain peace. Ask yourself, where in my life am I explaining more than I am experiencing? Perhaps it is in your relationships, your work, or even in the way you measure your worth. Then ask, what might happen if I simply allowed myself to be without explanation? Those meant to understand you will feel the truth in your silence more deeply than in your words. Those who are not meant to understand never will, no matter how much you explain. The day you stop trying to be understood is the day you begin to embody your truth. That is where peace lives, not in convincing, but in quietly knowing who you are. Let your stillness speak for you. Its echo will travel farther than your words ever could. 8. The power of choosing what enters your life. There is a quiet wisdom in knowing what to welcome into your life and what to keep at a distance. Yet many move through the world as if they are open fields with no boundaries, allowing every voice, every opinion, every distraction to wander in without question. We scroll without pause. We respond before we reflect. We absorb without asking whether it nourishes us. And piece by piece, almost without noticing, our peace begins to fade. Your peace is not something to leave unguarded. It is a sacred space, and not everything belongs inside it. Sometimes stepping back is not an act of coldness, but of clarity. It is remembering that your mind is not a public square. It is a temple, and not every passerby is meant to walk through its doors. In Buddhist teaching, the mind is treated as a sacred sanctuary. A temple remains peaceful, not because it is empty, but because it is cared for. Only what carries respect and reverence may enter. Imagine living in this way with deep respect for your own attention, your own energy, your own spirit. Imagine becoming unreachable to gossip, untouched by petty conflict, unavailable to the endless noise that steals your focus. What would happen if you stopped apologizing for not caring about what does not help you grow? You do not need to be available for every conversation, every request, every demand. In fact, being constantly accessible is what drains your strength. You say yes when you feel no. You answer when your heart asks for stillness. And the truth is, protecting your attention is one of the greatest acts of self-respect. You do not owe a reaction to every situation. You do not owe your presence to every person. Some things are best left outside the gate of your mind. Try this today. Close your eyes and picture a golden doorway at the entrance to your thoughts. Each time a request, a message, or a thought arrives, pause and ask, does this deserve to enter? Let that be your quiet practice. Watch how much lighter you feel when you choose what you allow in. You are not shutting life out. You are making room for peace to enter. Ask yourself gently, what have I welcomed into my life that slowly took my calm away? Perhaps it is a role you never wanted, a habit that weakens you, a conversation that drains you. You can choose to step back now. You do not need to explain. Just as a temple does not justify who may cross its threshold, your boundaries can stand silently, yet firmly. The moment you stop giving space to what depletes you is the moment you create space for what restores you. When you stop trying to be everywhere for everyone, you begin to be fully present for yourself. Let the world move at its pace. You do not have to match its speed. Be still. Be selective. Treat your energy as sacred. Not every door needs to open. Let your silence serve as the lock, and let your peace stand guard at the entrance of your heart. If this speaks to you, share your reflection below. And if you cannot find the words, simply write, "My stillness is my strength." 10. You do not have to earn your worth through suffering. Many quietly carry a belief that pain makes them more worthy. They think endurance proves depth, That heartbreak proves love, that scars prove strength. And so, they hold their suffering close, wearing it like armor, as if to let it go would mean losing a part of who they are. But releasing suffering is not weakness, it is wisdom. There is no spiritual reward for how long you have carried pain. The awakening begins the moment you realize that you are not here to prove yourself through struggle. In Buddhist teaching, suffering is not something to glorify. It is something to see clearly, to understand, and then to release with compassion. The Buddha never asked us to cling to our wounds. He taught us to meet them fully and then to put them down. Freedom does not come from denying that pain exists. It comes from refusing to let pain define who you are. Many hold on because they believe that carrying the weight honors their story. But holding on does not honor the past. It only keeps you disconnected from the peace available now. You have survived what you needed to survive. You are allowed to live without the burden. Think of a snake shedding its skin. It does not shed out of anger for what was, but because growth requires space. It is not the same creature it once was. This is how healing works. You are not betraying your past by letting go of suffering. You are simply becoming more of who you are now. Yet so many remain trapped, not because they cannot move forward, but because they do not believe they have permission. But healing does not wait for approval from yesterday. It begins the moment you choose to step into today. Try this now. Place your hand over your heart and tell yourself, I give myself permission to heal. Notice how unusual it may feel. Notice the quiet strength in those words. Healing is not forgetting. It is remembering yourself without the pain attached. It is looking in the mirror and seeing the one who endured, but no longer flinching at the memory. Ask yourself gently, what pain have I turned into part of my identity? Is it the heartbreak, the betrayal, the loss? Is it the belief that constant struggle makes you good, deep, or real? Look honestly at the places that still ache and ask whether they are still serving you. If they are not, thank them for their place in your journey and release them. The day you stop centering your life around what hurt you is the day you reclaim the self that existed before the wound. Not because the pain wasn't real, but because it no longer needs to shape your reality. Like the snake, you can shed what no longer fits and move forward in renewal. You are not here to be consumed by pain. You are here to be transformed by peace. Let it in. Let it grow roots. Let it become the truth you live from now on. Conclusion. Each of these lessons is a doorway not to some distant future, but to a way of living that is possible right now. The freedom you seek does not wait at the end of a long road. It exists in the space between breaths, in the moment you decide to release what no longer serves you, in the courage to meet life as it is. Buddha's wisdom was never meant to be stored in books or memorized as words.